Right, so we're continuing on with Basar B'Cholov, Siman Tzai Galad, just a few Nekudus on Sif Hey, then we'll go on to Sif Vav. In Sif Hey, we were introduced indirectly to the concept of Nat Bar Nat, at least even though it's not mentioned so directly, it's indirectly because of the circumstances. We're dealing with a situation which is not really that chomer because it's a Kedera Chadosha, it's a new pot, so therefore there's less of a problem. With a new pot, we're immersing a spoon, a dairy spoon, then followed later on by a meat spoon into waters that have no shishim. So in the two kapos, of course, were bnei yoimon, which makes a difference. When something is bnei yoimon or not bnei yoimon, it can make a big difference, as we will see. So here we're talking about that they're bnei yoimon, and in neither of the time there was shishim in the water. Once you have shishim, you have even less problems. So the Mechaber was very, very perplexing in his conclusion as to what to do with this kedera. He says, "Asur l'shtamash b'kedera labasa v'lacholov." Don't use it from now on unless you make a gala for neither basar or chalav. Aval shadvar muter, you can go ahead and use it right now. Cook other things, fish, whatever you want. Me'achar shehoysa chadosha was new, shelo bishlu b'ma'olam, so there's no problem. The Ramah says, "Im mihu im over ubishu b'basar chalav muter." Nevertheless, if by mistake he did go ahead and cook basar or chalav, it's mutter, and now he tells us the reason for it. Because b'di'evet, here we're talking about a situation which is typical, called the have noisin tam bar noisin tam. And this is a concept which we'll learn more be'iyun in Siman Tzadik Hey. But he tells us already that this is a nat bar nat, which is a secondary or more diluted or weaker tam, and such a tam is not a big deal. How this nat bar nat comes about, of course, we'll discuss later because there is a machlokas in that. And even those who are matir nat bar nat, there's something called lechatchila, there's something called b'di'evet, and that's why the Ramah, who seems to go along with the Mechaber, Me'ikar Adin, he says b'di'evet, don't worry about it, because it's going to be a nat bar nat. So the question wasn't the Mechaber. Why is the Mechaber machmir here? Mechaber is actually a staunch supporter, if we can call him that, of nat bar nat later on. This is one of the areas of Basar B'Cholov with Sephardim and Ashkenazim slightly differ. I say slightly because it's not a major inyan, but it could make a difference. But before we go on with the question, let me give you an example that's come up right now in my home. It can come up in your home too, so that we should understand a little bit in issues that are relevant how this applies. My wife asks me like this. She wants to make mock cheesecake. Okay, why mock? Well, she wants to serve it in a fleishik meal, of course. So it has to be made out of, they make it out of soy, I guess, whatever it is. That ingredient which is not real, real milk, real cheese. Now, she has a pan to make the cake. It's a special pan. It's important that she make the cake in this pan. She tells me all of these little details can make a difference in how the cake comes out. Not only the ingredients, in the type of pan it is baked, the oven, and so forth. Now this pan is a Melicha pan. Why is it a Melicha pan? Because it was once used for a real cheesecake, Shavuos or whatever. Can she now make her mock cheesecake in this Melicha, supposedly called Melicha pan, and serve it at the fleishik dinner, Shabbos? So what would you say?
Now that you ripple,
yes.
Now I have a question.
Oh.
The Mechaber to be machmir. No, it's actually Nazi.
Right.
That is to be machmir if it's an electric pot. That was used.
Yes, good point. Because even according to those who are machmir, because it's only a chumrah, there's still a nat bar nat situation, it appears that there's more of a kula, and that's what I reviewed today before I came here. There's a shita, and eventually we'll maybe go into it. There's a shita that explains that chumrah of those shitas of nat bar nat would not really or should not really apply if it's also not a ben yoima. This pan, you're very right. Initially, I didn't even think about it. I just went ahead and told her what the halacha is based on the Ramah's minhag, the Ramah's din. But without even thinking about it, but wait a minute, I even have the additional advantage that that pan is really not ben yoma anyway. But the thing is with eino ben yoma is we don't do things lechatchila with eino because if it's eino ben yoma. That's why
That's for sure not.
Yeah.
But here you actually have the nat bar nat. Now the question is, they still hold the chumrah. They don't deny nat bar. They're just machmir.
Right.
But they still hold the chumrah if lehatchila it's not in tamid gam anyway.
That's good. That's a good point.
B'diavad wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
You wouldn't use it.
Right.
B'diavad wouldn't be a problem. Now here they agree with b'diavad also here that not eating it together is a form of b'diavad. You don't become fleishig.
No, of course. That's a separate point. There's several other points here. So here, there would not really be a problem for her to make that cheesecake in that dairy pan if she chose to. That cheesecake that is marked will not become dairy. Besides nois and tam gam, but that besides nois and tam gam, it can qualify, according to some, as a nat bar nat. Okay.
By qualifying, you mean you might have the heter.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean. Based on how nat bar nat works, according to some, it can qualify as a nat bar nat. After all, what I'm making right now is not milichix, right? It's parv.
Also, I have another question.
Okay.
If you're talking about a cheek,
yes.
It's not baking, it's baking.
It's baking, yes.
So baking has also the same thing?
Okay.
Or is it only kedei klipa?
Okay, so that's when we come to nat bar nat, we'll discuss it. At sliya, baking and cooking, it can make a difference. But let's assume it is. It's just, but it's similar to the dogim she'olu be'ka'ara, which because of just the heat alone, it appears to be that according to many shittas, it would be fine. Okay, so because of that. Yeah, sure. So therefore, I told her, go ahead and do it, no problem. Just make sure, preferably, serve it on paper plates. And at the end of the meal, of course. It's, in other words, not together with the meat.
So then every...
Exactly. Yeah, we're trying to do it to satisfy Ashkenazim here. So here you're not eating it together with meat.
Even
for dessert. It's for dessert.
Even without noten tam default.
Right, exactly.
Without all this.
It shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem because it's at the end of the meal. The only thing is, as we will soon see in the Ramah, there's an extra chumrah of the Ramah in these kind of situations of using the plate. Where are you going to put this cake?
Right.
Okay? So he said, put it in the plate of whatever is ben yomer here. Okay? In other words, what?
He said, put in whatever has been yomo.
Right. Okay, not in our case. Well, in our case, it's a parva cake, but we will see. He says that there's this when you choose what keli to put it on. Okay, choose it. When you have a case of ben yomer, eino ben yomer, there's a machlokes on that too. Put it in the one that's ben yomer. In other words, let's say you actually cooked. Let me see the example over here. Okay, I'll leave that for the Ramah because the Ramah's example is different than my example. Because we're talking about putting in the spoon into the keli. So you have Melicha. So in my case, it's completely parva, so it's not really shayach. But either way, I told her to put it onto paper plates and not onto fleishike plate. Applying that chumrah that we will soon see in the Ramah that is a little bit different than this. You follow me?
Oh, sure.
You can understand that, right? Yeah. And not to eat it together. That's okay, and that should be okay. So that's just an example of where these things can occur on a regular basis. All right. Now...
In Makro, there would have to be quite a few.
Oh, yes.
Someone would have to be baking cheesecake, parva cake.
If that is the issue,
then
you parva bake with.
So I qualified my statement by first telling her that I always will agree with her if she went ahead and bought separately a parva pan to make things easier.
But given the she's done.
But since she has not yet, it's perfectly acceptable, lechatchila, to do so.
It eliminates cabinet in the kitchen. Because on your analysis,
you
really need parva.
You don't really need that many parva kin, but it's good to have.
Yeah.
It's good to have a parva knife, right? We're going to see with onions and all kinds of things. Yeah, there are times that the parve comes in handy because of what you're going to be cooking and
also
eating together.
The problem of mechadi l'shma.
Yeah.
At which point you don't have the advantage.
Yeah, but what causes mechadi l'shvach? Not everything is mechadi l'shvach.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
only exceptionally. But
Yeah. All right. So just to finish up real quickly, what we discussed already in Sif Hey, the mechaber seems to be machmir here. In the Shach and the Pri Chodosh, I think also, they said, according to the Mechaber's own psak later on in Siman Tzadikei, that not barnat is muter lechatchila, then here it should also be so. The why is he machmir? So the Shach says it shouldn't be a problem at all. This example in the Mechaber should not be a problem at all. He's machmir in other cases, but this example would not be a problem at all. And therefore, in reality, you should be able to use it after you've done what you've done, 32 spoons, for any use you want. You can make it fleishik, you can make it a Melicha pot. Chavas Das writes like that. The Groa believe, the Chacham HaSodam. The Pri Megadim just adds another detail here that even according to the Ramah, the Shitas that hold that you need to be machmir, not barnat, you're not always mekel and not barnat. Here this would qualify as a 3 not barnat, not just a double, it's 3. Yeah. And I did see, I think it's the shach also here. It's a long shach that apparently here there may be an additional kula that the nat barnat is happening through the keli. In other words, part of the tam is in the keli as opposed to being in food. A tam being in the keli is somehow more affected than if it were to be traveling within food. One food into water and back into the food. Somehow it could make a difference too.
I thought we don't say nat barnat by food.
It wouldn't be as good. Here, it would be in a keli. And therefore, not only is it a real nat barnat, it's a better nat barnat because it's in keli. That's one explanation given here. That you have, I'm going to give the other example soon. You have a situation with washing dishes. With washing dishes of milchiks and fleishik, some people only have one sink. And this could be a problem. If people are washing it together, it's definitely going to be a problem. You have to avoid that. But why is it a problem? In the end, it should be a nat barnat. So that's one of the halachas that is discussed in Siman Tzadikei. You're putting the fleishik and milchik plates are coming in contact with each other in the same water. So what is the din if they did? So of course over there's a chiluk if there was actual shamnunis in the kelim or not, or if they were completely clean. So let's assume that they were completely clean. What could be the problem? So the Mechaber says it's mutter. It was b'diavad, don't do it. But he says, since we're already talking about it, I'll quote it. In this case, in his example, it was fleishike pots that were rinsed out in a milchike pot. There's another example of the two being in the same sink with just hot water running between the two of them. And the hot water is yatzoledes bohem. That also is going to make a difference. Is this happening in a klisheni? Is this happening under running hot water from the faucet? Is that called irui kliri? What is that called? Is it boiling hot? So he says, even if the tzcham in yatzoledes and in shneim b'nei yormon in smutar shum dehavale noisen tam bar noisen tam the hetera, as long as they're clean. So here it's an interesting example of dishes being washed, fleishik dishes, even in milchik dishes, that there will be water.
Recall that there are those who disagree. Tastes combine the water.
Right. All right. So that's tastes.
Before they go back to the.
Right. Very good. Very good. You remember that from last time, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, those who are machmir say no. Yesho Yisrim. The reason for that is two reasons are given. One is either you say that there's no real nat barnat here because by the time they come out they meet,
right.
And the whole water becomes an avela, and then when it becomes an avela, it goes back inside. So that would be one reason. And the other reason, which is an important reason, which the Taz mentions here too, is that over there we have a problem that they actually touch. And when you have a pot touching another pot, you don't really have a chance to create a nat barnat because it's going directly from the keli to the other keli. Yeah.
You have liquid, so it also could include.
Yeah, so with liquid it would be easier if they didn't touch. Yeah. So so we'll get to that. So here, I was saying here, the Megadim explained that even according to that Ramah, here you would have a situation of 3 tamim. But anyway, the Taz holds, the Taz is machmir, so we follow the Mechaber and the Ramah, the Chatchila, that you should use it for parve use. And the Taz explains that here the Mechaber is only machmir. He's not saying this me'ikar adin. And why is he machmir? For reasons similar to what the Ramah is going to tell us. And what is the Ramah going to tell us? He's going to tell us about where to put it and what plate to put it, and that we ask the kli that's eino ben yoima as well. We'll see. In other words, there's 2 chumras in the Ramah. So the Taz says the Mechaber, similar to the chumras of the Ramah, also wants to apply a chumrah here. What is this chumrah? That we don't rely lechatchila on the not benat hetera here. Yes, but the eved not benat works, but this is a lechatchila situation. You don't have to use it for either. You can use it for other things too. So why use it for one more for the other? So that's the way the Taz explains the Mechaber here. Yeah, and that's in the, like I told you, the Shach says that even according to those who are machmir banat, benizbashlu, if they were cooked, here there would be maker because the tam is balu and the kli and not an oichel. Okay, that's a separate thing. Does that make a difference where the tam is balu on? Okay, the Shach, there's a lot of Shach over here. He adds like this. He also says here that we have Lemaisa 3 not bar nuts. And therefore, in reality, even according to those shittas who are machmir by not bar nut, even they should agree that he would be mutter. Okay, an additional point I thought was interesting. The Darke Moshe brings down over here that the Smak holds that not bar nut within a me'es le'es, I think we mentioned this actually, is also lechatchila. In the same way that we ask noisen tam lefgan lechatchila, so not bar nut within a 24-hour period is also lechatchila. And that's why it's the Smak's shita that you don't do hagala to kelim, Melicha or fleishiks, within the same day that they were used, bnei yoiman, in order not to bring about a lechatchila not bar nut.
So lechatchila not bar nut of a ben yom, when you take a pot that's milchik, cook ben yom or milchik pot, cook some head in it,
right,
and then want to eat that, or a fleishik pot, and you want to eat that fish head now with cream cheese,
right.
So that would be for lechatchila.
Lechatchila not bar nut. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that was pretty much the Mechaber's portion in Sifei. The Ramos told us that if you went ahead and you cooked in this pot Basar or Chalav, it's muted of anoisin tam. Now, the Ramo goes on. K'deiro shebishlu bo yerokos or mayim. Let's say you have a pot that you cook vegetables in, or water.
Before we leave this topic, just heard. Now, eating.
All right.
So this is the Rabbanan anyway.
Yes, correct.
Now we have a situation of not bar nut.
That's correct.
So it sounds like a terrible humrah for the Ramah to answer the.
Yes, it's only. He says that's why he says in this Ramah, a lot of these things are mutter, are really mutter. He says these are chumras.
It's not even a device.
You're right. Yeah. We're going to see it inside. That's exactly it.
Why does he even?
Yeah, he doesn't really answer it. It's not a real chumrah.
But Ashkenazim wouldn't.
No. Yeah. If they knew the halacha. They might not realize it.
Well, what?
About not by not, all the differences. And let's see it inside, because the Ramos says pretty much what you're saying. So you have a pot that you cooked vegetables in, or water. And you inserted a kaf. This time it's only one kaf. That was ben yoimoy. And this kdera, which is of course of a different type, is not a bas yoima. Or lehefech. The kdera is bas yoima, and the spoon is not ben yoima. Now, this could be whether you're making yourself a coffee with the wrong spoon. This could be a ladle, a big spoon, a fork, stirring. And it happens to be the one is ben yoima, and the other one is not. It makes no difference which one it is. One is and what's not. The main diuk here is that what we're cooking right now is vegetables or water, something parv. Okay, but the problem is the keli is one type and the spoon is another type. And One is ben yoima, one is not ben yoima. Obviously, if the two are ben yoima, it's a big problem. I have to figure out shishim again. So what happens if one is not ben yoima? Or if they are both, but yesh b'machal shishim. Well, of course, if yesh b'machal shishim, hakol shori. But so I don't need to know about the shishim so much. I know this from before. But here, the chidush is that if one of them is not ben yoima, it's important to keep that in mind. Don't be that concerned. Don't get nervous. The food is okay. Akol shori. Now, when he says akol, he means everything. Everything, including the pot and the spoon. So that's why he says that nohagin, there's a minhag, Ashkenazi minhag, lehachmir, lechol amachal kemin akli shuhu ben yoimo. And here the Shach, and the Gro agrees with the Shach, says that you should read it bemin hakli. And I'll tell you why he does that.
Famous bit in Kid.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why he says that. Because even though to me, I understood it with the K as well as with the Be. But he was more particular about it. I'll tell you why. The minhag is to be machmir to eat the food that we just cooked in this pot, vegetables for example, in a dish, shuhu ben yoimai. I'm sorry, in a dish that is similar to the dish that was ben yoimai. In other words, if the spoon, let's say, if the spoon was ben yoimai,
and it's dairy,
and it's a dairy spoon, eat those vegetables in a dairy plate. Take them out from that meat pot, which is not a ben yoima, and do yourself a favor. Eat them in a dairy plate, on a dairy plate. If the pot was fleishik ben yoima, and the spoon was not a ben yoima, then go ahead and eat those vegetables in a meat plate. Fleishik plate.
Of course, you can always eat them in a tar, but that's the problem.
Right.
It's interesting he doesn't even mention it.
Right. Now here he doesn't mention it, but we understand it from later on that this food, that these vegetables should not be eaten with let's see here, with flesh. If the spoon was ben yoima,
And
dairy.
if you're not supposed to even eat on a plate that's like the...
Right, exactly. You're not supposed. You shouldn't even eat it on the plate that's fleishiks. The more so, you should not eat it with meat. Let's say that the fleishik pot is fleishik, is ben yoima, fleishik pot is, all right, and the spoon is the one that's not ben yoima. It's a Melicha spoon, and you just made yourself, I don't know.
Potato one with sour cream.
Potatoes, yeah, good. You've eaten that, potatoes and
Yes,
sour. Yeah,
absolutely.
okay, so that's it. You want to have those potatoes with sour cream. A great example. I was going to use butter, but anyway. Can you do that or not? The fleishik pot is a ben yoima, right? You use a spoon that's ain't a ben yoima, milchikas. Right? You just made parv. You made a potato. So this potato is not a fleishik potato. Why is it not a real fleishik potato? Because there's no meat in the pot right now. It's only getting the tam from the pot. And that tam is a not bar nat. Because had you been cooking potatoes with meat, then that's not bar nat. That's a fleishik potato. And we'll see that in Sivav. But if you're just cooking it in a clean fleishik pot, that's not bar nat. Okay. So the minhag of the Ashkenazim is not to have those potatoes with sour cream. And in addition to that, what the Ramah does say clearly is even put it on a plate that's fleishik. In other words, as the one that's ben yoimo. Here, in this case, the pot is ben yoimo. Put it into that kind of a kli. The Sfardim are not so machmir on that. Now, I cannot imagine really a Sfardi taking potatoes that were cooked in a fleishik pot and putting it in a milchik plate. You've cooked it in the fleishik pot, just put it in the fleishik plate. It's fleishik.
That's just because you know the Ramah.
Yeah. No. But the reason why this is an important diyuk here is because it doesn't go by the pot. It goes by the one that's ben yoima.
Right.
So you can easily make a mistake. What am I going to put it in? Because you might say, okay, I'm going to put it in the fleishik plate. If I use it in a fleishik, no. You have to put this dafka in a milchik plate because the spoon was ben yoima. You don't follow the pot. You follow the one that's ben yoima. And the Pri Megadim actually says there's quite a few shittas that don't hold like that. They say if you're going to be machmir, you're better off using it in the one that's ain't ben yoima, not the one that's ben yoima. use it on the one that's ben yoima, eino ben yoima. Yeah.
Wait.
Because it was boileya from a eino ben yoima.
Yeah, but it was also boileya for the binyoma, so from both of them. Maybe he means, maybe it was a plate that's binyoma?
I'm talking about the plate, yeah. Not the plate eino ben yoima.
Otherwise it doesn't make...
No, it's still a nat bar nat.
What's the benefit? Yeah, but what's the benefit that I'm going to use a plate that has the same fleischig milk category as the eino ben yomo, and therefore it's a plate that is the opposite category of the ben yomo? I just boiled a potato in a fleischig... I just boiled a potato in a... let's say fleischig ben yomo pot.
Right.
And now I'm going to eat daf, and the spoon I stuck in there is milchig eino ben yomo.
Yeah.
So therefore I'm going to eat the potato on a milchig plate. I cooked the potato
in a pot.
In a fleischig ben yomo pot.
Ben yomo pot, yeah.
And I stuck a spoon in that was dairy, but eino ben yomo.
Right.
So since the dairy spoon was eino ben yomo, I should eat it on the
I have to look at it. You're right. I have to see the example.
Doesn't make sense.
I don't remember the example clearly.
I would think he would say then eat it on a plate that's eino ben yomo.
No, that he doesn't say. No.
So what?
Yeah.
What do I gain?
Yeah.
What do I gain?
There was an advantage. All I recall, and I have to look at it again. Remind me that there was an advantage of eating it like the eino ben yomo. But anyway, we'll look into it again. Here, the Ramah just says clearly, the minhag is to be machmir, because mikar dina kol shori, to put it on the plate. So we have two chumras here. One, to put it on the plate, kemin hakli shu ben yomo, or ben min hakli, like the Shach and the Gross says, that is ben yomo. Why do they make such a deal? Because if you read kemin hakli, it appears that that this is melichix now.
Right, exactly.
That this is fleischix now.
Right, exactly.
And it's not. The food that you just cooked, the vegetables, is not fleischix or melichix. It's just telling you to put it in a plate that is like that kli. That's all. So the kaf and the base can make a difference. All right. Chumrah number 1. What's chumrah number 2? V'lesor hakli she'eino ben yomo, and to answer the kli that is not ben yomo. All of this is a chumrah ba'am kol shora. We said before, everything is really mutter because of nat bar nat, that the Ramah here, and everybody says pretty much here, pretty much applies. But what's the second chumrah? That you take that kli, let's say the pot was not ben yom, or let's say the spoon, whatever it is, they were not ben yom, go ahead and answer it too. In other words, make a gala to it. All right, so we have to understand the two chumras. One who's not, that which is not ben yom, all it has is a belia of a ben yoma, which is a nat bar nat to begin with,
right?
Which is really mutter.
But really,
and it's a ben yoma. In other words, why should you answer that? Okay, so these are the two chumras, right? Number one, you put it on the plate, which corresponds to the one that was ben yoma, the spoon or the pot. Number two, you answer that which was the eino ben yoma. What about that one that's ben yoma? Why not answer that one?
Because the eino ben yoma tam would answer the ben yoma spoon, and there's no reason why the eino ben yoma tam which is tam should answer it.
Exactly. The one that's ben yoma, you don't have to worry about it, because what did it absorb? A tam of eino ben yoma.
Right.
So that's a tam of gam. But the one that is eino ben yoma, apparently we're answering it for what reason?
Because lahatchila. Because lahatchila, you shouldn't use, even an eino ben yoma pot, lahatchila, you shouldn't, once it was exposed to the opposite,
so there's several asberim.
You shouldn't lahatchila use it. Although if you use it, you wouldn't answer anything.
Right, let's go to the first chumrah. First chumrah that the Ramah mentions is putting the food onto a plate that resembles, that is like the mean that is ben yomo. So the Shach says that what would have happened had they both been bnei yomim? They would be asur min adin, right? So therefore, the minhag is to be machmir, even if one of them is not ben yomim. So people should not make a mistake with ben yomim. That's the Shach. Rabbi Kiva Eger, however, adds something that could be very, very relevant. He says that if you have this kind of a situation, you don't want, and it's hot, you don't want to pour the contents onto a melicha pot, for example, whatever, because while it's hot, in other words, while it's boiling hot, you're better off waiting till it cools off. Why? Because the minhag is also to be concerned about the tam lefgam that was mixed there. Since lechatchila we don't cook with tam lefgam, since that is the minhag, So here we are concerned about that tam lefgam tu lechatchila. So don't pour.
So maybe that's the reason why.
I think it has to do with that.
It would have to be the pen.
Yeah, only in the
The
case
spoon
of...
is the end. It
Doesn't make that much sense. I think it was the example of the pot, yeah. I have to see it again. But anyway, so he just adds that don't pour it while it's hot onto the opposite kind of a keli, which is a Melicha plate or bowl or whatever, because we want to watch out for that.
It would be even if it's anal.
Right. When it's hot, when it's boiling hot. Yeah.
In other words, if it's the pot, never pour it into the opposite type, even if it's anal.
Even if it's Eino ben Yomo, the pot, right. The second chumrah, that we are knowing to answer the pot or the keli that is Eino ben Yomo, which means we require hagala to it. That's what it means. We answer it because you need to make hagala before you use it. Even minadin, it's okay because there's really 3 nat bar nats you can have over here. The Taz explains that this chumrah stems from the chumrah, the first chumrah. What was the first chumrah that we're machmir to put it on another plate? At kedei kach, we're putting it on a plate that is like it, like the bein yoma. If that's the case, it would be a tarti desaser. It would be like a contradictory. Here we're machmir to take that food, and we say we treat it like this. We treat it like it's milachix, like the spoon, which was a ben yoma, and the pot is okay. In other words, if we're treating this, the food, as one, then treat the pot where it was cooked as though it was bolea, an iser. In other words, in essence, we're as the Shach I think explains. Shach gives it another twist. We're machmir on the nat bar nat a little bit. A little bit of the nat bar nat here came onto the. That's the way he explains. It's a chumrah. It's all a chumrah. That's what we're saying. We're machmir. We were machmir with the food to put it on that plate. So it would be contradictory to say, "Oh, but this is okay." No, it's not okay. It absorbed. When a pot, a fleishik pot, does absorb milachix, when it does for sure, not an abarnat, even if it's eino ben yomo, it's also because it has blias of both, right? So here they say, you are machmir with the food. Be machmir on this. In other words, that's one explanation. There's several. One explanation as to why we are machmir on this part too. All right.
Where possible, avoid being sweating.
That's the Chavas Das. The Chavas Das says that little twist. I think it's the Chavas Das that by the minig lesser klishe kibel nat barnat through bishul. It's a minig to be machmir on a kli, the kibel absorbed a nat barnat, tam through bishul. Yeah.
Through bishul, in other words, and not just by putting potato on it.
Exactly. Yeah. They say for Yad Yehuda, I think just says it also zero eino ben yomo otu ben yomo. We're geyser. This can happen. People can make a mistake, as the Shach says. People can make a mistake. So all right. Either way, that's the reason why we're machmir. All right. Real quickly, just the Taz that we spoke about briefly last time. The Taz says, why is this situation over here by us different than the one in Tzadik Hey, where there's a reason to be machmer by ke'aras, fleishiks and melicha kedishas together, where we are concerned over there that they may absorb from each other. And it's the tam sheni is already be'isura. In other words, by the time you're getting to the tam sheni, they're already together. There's no chance of being nat bar nat. Over there, that's one of the chumras of dishes. Why don't we say over here when you put in a spoon onto the pot in a pot that perhaps it also touched? Because one of the reasons giving there is also because it touched, right? Over there there's 2 reasons. Either they touched, or because at the time they meet in the waters, they're becoming usher already. And by the time they, once they become usher, it's like a chanan, they go back. So so the Taz asks about over here too, why don't you say here, maybe it touched, the spoon touched. And sometimes that could be a problem, if you know for sure it didn't touch or did touch. But here he says apparently when the Ramah is mekel altogether, it's in the Ramah's example of putting in a spoon and saying it's not barnat, he's mekel. He doesn't say anything about chumrah, like over there. He says maybe because here the Ramah is going more like the other explanation. What's the other explanation? Not that they touched each other, but the waters, the Isser was formed in the water itself. Here you have Shishim. In other words, here you don't have that problem. Here you have shishim keneged the tam. In other words, the spoon, even if it were to touch the pot, if you had shishim, it would not be a problem. So that's the Taz explaining as to why here the Ramah makes no mention of the possibility he touched. Because maybe he doesn't really subscribe to that particular explanation as to why over there it's usher. Because they touched. It's there, it could be for other reasons why it's usher. Because the waters mix, and you don't really have a true knot bar knot there. So if you hold that's the main reason there, then the touching is not a problem. Especially if you have shishim, then it's not a problem. Alright. In Sif Vov, we're talking about the Tzolim Yerokus Shebluim Basar Ubishlam Bigdera Cholaves. So, okay, you have.
What would be the problem that they touch? What's touching here is the spoon, which let's say is a ben yomo milk spoon,
Right.
with a pot, then in a ben yomo fleischig pot. So it's a chumrah. What is?
No, you don't have a real knot by knot if you're touching subsequently.
Yeah, forget the nut by nut.
Yeah.
So what?
So then you have Belias.
Oh,
The two, remember?
Yeah, but you've got two keli. You're talking about keli. Do blias travel from keli to?
No, but there's. If they do travel,
If you have
some liquid.
Moisture. You have moisture.
Right.
If you have moisture, then you have nut by nut.
Right, so that's why he says that not everybody holds like that. Because of that, could be. Because of what you just said. That
And
not
if you leave away the moisture,
because if you have some moisture, it would be a knot by knot.
right. And if you leave away the moisture, it's
Oh,
not going to
but
affect each other.
they're machmir there that if it's so close that maybe it's apparently it's not a real knot.
And all that you're saying would apply if
Yeah.
both blias were fresh. But here we're talking about ones that's in binyon.
Yeah, but we're talking about the keli, not the food anymore.
Right.
The keli has absorbed.
But the blia in the one of the two kelim is in binyon.
Right, and one is ben yoima. So
Right. So one is in. By the time this blia from the one keli has entered into the other, now for
Right.
sure it's not burnt.
yeah, according to some, according to others, it may not be.
No. What I mean is,
Yeah,
if the other keli was ben yomo,
Right.
you can't say not burn out.
right,
But now this keli has an eno ben yomo meat,
Right.
and it received a blia from the spoon that's dairy.
sure.
But this blia now in the pot, when the pot gives it out to cooking meat in this pot again,
Right.
now for sure it's a nana.
Oh, eventually when that comes out, yeah.
And
yeah.
as long as it's still in the walls of the pot, what harm does it do?
Nothing, but you have to make a gullah to that pot.
Why?
If it has the two.
Why do you have to? I see it as a chumrah.
As a chumrah,
But not as a
right.
chumrah, why do you have to?
Yeah,
The taste that was absorbed in the pot is the ben yomo.
yeah. It's only it's a chumrah. Yeah, you're right. It's not
If you
make a-
cooked milk in it, that's
Right.
something else.
Well, you may.
have the original source of the taste.
Yes, yes.
But here it was transferred from
Yeah.
one kli to another.
All right, but we'll talk about it then when we get to that, because there's various sheets in not banatin. Some are machmir dafka bebishul and allow it only in olu. We'll see. This is a very interesting seif because it combines several concepts. Betzolim yerokus shebluim mibasar. You have onions or other vegetables that have absorbed meat.
That's what they were cooked with meat.
They were cooked with meat.
Ah.
What would be another possibility to render a batzal fleishik, other than having been cooked with meat?
Having been cut by a meat knife, that's ben yomo.
Very good. How much was it cut?
How much of the knife was used? How much of the surface of the knife? And then it's like a niddah.
Oh, right. So here, if we want to consider the entire onion, tomato, sweet potato, if when the whole thing fleishik, and it was cut with a knife, it has to be that it has been cut to pieces.
No, but actually, there's a chumrah. I think the Ramah.
Yeah.
You have to go lechumrah both sides. Number one, perhaps it did spread in the whole onion. So now you'll need 60 against the whole onion.
Yeah, but we're not. Yeah.
And at the same time, maybe it remained concentrated in the kedena tila, so you have to remove the kedena tila.
That we'll get to when we learn that.
Okay.
That's later on, right?
Okay.
Here we're talking about what are the examples of an onion? Can an onion be completely fleishik? And we'll see why this makes a difference. It's either it was cooked with meat, and I'm wondering why would you want to use it again? I guess it still has some flavor, no? The onion was used. You used an onion in chalant. You take it out. Would you use it again? That's what it's talking about. B'tzolim yogesh shebluim mibasar, ubishlam, and you cook them b'kdera chalavis in a Melicha kepato. Why would you want to use it again? I guess you ran out of onions.
Your level of pot.
Yeah, whatever. It could be. It could be that they reused it. It's still whole. It didn't fall apart. It'll still give off some flavor. All right. Now what? Well, the problem is it was a fleishik onion, and you're cooking it in a kdera cholevis. Kdera cholevis, by the way, here it means that you actually have food in that Gderech HaLeves. It's not you're just cooking it in an empty Gderech HaLeves. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's
What kind
thought.
of food?
You're cooking all kinds of dairy dishes.
So it has to be dairy.
Yeah, that's the example.
The cholevis is going on the content of kedera.
Yes. It's not, here we're not concerned just about the Gdero itself, that it's empty. I went ahead and cooked onions now, making a part of a dish in a Gdero cholevis. So what's going to be the din of the Gdero? Here, I wonder what's the din of the contents of this Melichix.
So the kedera here is actually the food.
Yes, yeah. That's the way it's understood. But of course, you could still have a problem with the Gdero cholevis, because it's a fleshik onion. Sure. But here we're talking about you actually have an onion, and you went into Gdero cholevis. Now what? Well, you got to figure out, do I have shishim? Okay. Yeah, because you need to mevatel it. Do you need shishim against the whole onion? Why should you? Is there chanan by the onion? The meat is not isur, the meat is etera. Right?
Right.
So therefore, the Mechaber says, "Im yadua kama basar balua beptzolim." If you really know how much meat is in the onions, ubeyirokos, in the vegetables, ain't tzor shishim ela keneged basar. All you need is shishim keneged basar. Now, if you read the Mechaber and the Ramah, it appears like this is a very easy thing, and in some ways it is. But once you learn the Meforshim, you say, "Oh no, what's going on over here?" It could become a little more complicated. You know when it becomes complicated? I just introduce it to you a little bit. Are we talking about this Gdera cholevis, that it actually has milk? Or it has or does it have all kinds of food items that are melichix? Or parv, but it's Gdera cholevis. It can make a big difference according to some poskim, and you'll see why in a moment. Again, the nikuda is as follows. I started off saying Gdera cholevis means that we have the contents in this pot. Contents, it's a melichik dish, okay? But would it make a difference if it's completely milk or not? Or if it's just, parve food with maybe some melichiks or, just being cooked in a Gdera cholevis. I'll tell you why in a moment. Our first question is, what do we do with this contents of the food? Question number one. Well, do you have shishim keneged the batzol? Is it the whole batzol? So the Mechaber says no. It's hetera, shishim keneged the basar, that's balua in the batzol. If you know how much it is, great. You don't have chanan here. Okay, why would the Mechaber have to tell us this? I mean, Poshut. He doesn't hold chanan b'shar surim anyway. That's one of the questions on this diyukim. Elamai, the Mechaber is trying to tell us perhaps a chidush, that even according to the ones who hold there's no chanan b'shar surim.
There's no?
Yeah, there is none, right? Even according to them, because according to the ones that there is chanan b'shar surim, okay, this is a chidush. According to the ones who hold that anywhere there's no chanan b'shar, so what's the chiddush here? The chiddush is, well, what if the whole thing was milk? You're cooking an onion in a pot of milk, full milk. Can that milk, if you have shishim milk, be mevatel the batzol? And you say, well, why not? Right?
What do you say?
Can that milk be mevatel the batzol?
But the batzol has a very sharp taste.
No, forget about sharpness, because it says other yirokos too.
So potatoes.
It's potatoes. What's the problem? The problem is that if it's actual milk and meat in the batzol already being cooked together, aren't we creating here a chanan kind of a situation as it's cooking?
Yes, but then the onion would not.
Yes.
It's the onion.
Right. So then on that, the Mechaber says that you don't need against the whole onion. That will be his chiddush, according to his shita, that you only need according to the basar. Now comes the second question. What's the din of the batzal? What's the din of the onion? What's the din? Let's see the Ramah first. The lo shayach lo mechaticha nasa nevela, hoil v'adayin kulo heter, right? It's all heter. V'lachen in tzok l'shar rak neged ma shebola, v'chol shekem begdera shel chov, shebish, okay, that's a separate point. So what the Ramah talks about chanan, take. He says there's no chanan here. But, all right. Nobody says what's the din of the batzal.
Of the onion.
Of the orchis.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, what would you say, what is the din? You have shishim, and you have shishim against the basar, like the Mechaber says. What happens now? Great, the whole pot is saved. What about the onion? Is it okay, can I eat the onion right now? And you say to yourself, why not?
Well,
what does this remind you of? Right? We say we hold When something is usher in, an isser is in a particular piece of meat or anywhere, even if you saved the whole pot because you had shishim against it, forget about Hanan right now. Even the Mechaber himself says that piece is usher, remains usher. Remember that? Why? Why is Efshar Seichta usher? Because something is still there possibly. Why do we say something is possibly still there? Because there's something called Ein Hagola Be'oichlin. You can make Hagola to the pot. You can't really make a real Hagola to food. Something could still be there.
In other words, when we say 60 is sufficient, we're saying 60 because the worst case scenario that all of what was absorbed will be omitted. So
Right.
then I need 60, then 60.
Right.
But since I don't know for sure that any of it was, or how much was omitted,
Right.
and since the onion itself did not absorb 60 times whatever it absorbed,
Right.
so within the onion I might have a situation where I have everything that it absorbed of the meat still present,
Right.
plus not 60 to be mevatel it in the onion itself. So now if I eat the onion, I'll have meat plus milk, and there was never 60 in the onion to be mevatel them.
Yeah, that's correct.
When does the 60 help? If the meat taste all goes out into the milk.
That's correct. Yes.
And I only needed that if it actually does.
Right.
Because if it doesn't, it's not a problem. If
Right.
it all remains within the onion, I don't care that.
Yeah.
that
Sure. This is
And the milk also is
the milk. No,
The milk,
if you have shishim in the milk, it's a big, large pot. You've seen those caterers, and you have 60 for sure. Keneged an onion,
right.
no problem. The whole thing is mutter. Throw out the onion, but I can serve this. We need to know these things. Yeah. By the poskim, a lot of poskim says you don't have to throw out the onion, even if it was pure milk, and that's where I didn't have a chance to really review all the shitas. It's a whole diyun. I think there's a bach on this, and it's a whole sugi in itself, which is it doesn't. When you read the Mechaber, you're not even aware this whole sugi exists because he doesn't talk about what do you do with the batzel. You just assume everything is okay because you have shishim. Is that true even if the whole thing was milk? So anyway, so it's a separate. If we have time, we'll see it next week. But what I wanted to bring out, which I thought was very interesting, is there is a machlokes on the din of the batzel here for the following reason. It's true that we say Efshar Seichta is Osir when, according to many poskim, when we're talking about an Isser, the meat was never an Isser, it was Heter. So the din of Efshar Seichta does not apply. So we say all the meat came out of the onion.
What surprises me
Isn't that
with
interesting?
respect to that
Yeah.
is that the whole issue of Hanan, which is tied in, linked in with Efshar
Right.
Seichta, is dafka by Basar B'chalav. And here we're talking about a case of Basar B'chalav.
It could be, yeah, you're right.
So why would
If
I
it was-
all of a sudden turn around and say, since both of them are
Heter.
heter, I don't have a problem with Efshar Seichta?
Well, that's according to the poskim that if you're talking about pure milk coming in touch with the basar and the batzel, you're right. Yeah, that's where they're machmir.
I get Hanan in
You
there.
get Hanan. So therefore, they're machmir even on the batzel.
And then it
Yes,
doesn't help
you're
with
right.
Efshar Seichta.
Right, and they're machmir even on the batzel. Not only do you need shishim keneged the whole thing, you would need you would answer the batzel too, because of the same thing. But according to the ones who say this is not a problem, you still use shishim keneged just the amount of basar if you know what that amount is. The batzel will remain. The batzel will be mutter too. Why? Because Efshar Seichta is not a problem in case when you're dealing with something that is heter. Why? Because Efshar Seichta is also whenever you had an iser to begin with. This never became an iser to begin with. It was always mutter. So Efshar Seichta does not apply. Others say Ein Hagola Le'oichlin. What we said before. The concept of Ein Hagola Le'oichlin has nothing to do with isurim.
Right.
It's a fact that you cannot extract completely, you cannot be sure you extracted completely the time from food. You see, it's an interesting machlokes of how do you view Efshar Seichta. Does that apply to everything because of Ein Hagola Le'oichlin? Or it's only a question of something has become an Isser. Once it has become an Isser, it's bleibt an Isser, like we say in Yiddish. It remains an Isser, and you cannot undo the Isser.
It fell into a pot of milk.
Yeah.
A piece of meat out of a pot of milk. Of course it's on the
Yeah.
you eat that meat.
No,
No.
because it absorbed.
Because it absorbed.
Right.
So you don't say when it fell inside, before it absorbed, it first emitted the taste of, and therefore it didn't have time to absorb it.
Right, we don't say that.
No, of course not.
Right.
So why is the batzel needed?
So that's what we
While it was emitting, it was absorbing. So yes, eventually,
Right.
let's say everything spread over 60.
Right.
But until it had the opportunity to do so,
Right.
within the batzel itself,
Yes.
there was an accumulation of meat, which became chana.
Sure. Yeah, that's the other sheet there. Yeah. Anyway, so if we have time, we'll get into that again a little bit more deep. It's a separate area that's related to this halacha, of course, but it's not mentioned. So, I didn't want to get too much into it today. But it's an interesting machlokes because we want to know what the din of the batzel would be too. In that particular case. So anyway, the Ramah finishes off by saying that here, of course, there's no chanan because we're tilling with a heter. It's meat in the onion. Now he gives us. Now he mentions the halacha that we've talked about several times. If you have a gdera shel chavetz, a milcha gdera, shebishlu bo mayim, that you cooked water in it. Toich me'eis la'eis. Remember, it sounds familiar. You took a milcha pot or fleish pot, and all you did was within the 24 hours, you did not cook the flesh, the opposite. You just cooked water. Ve'achakach bishlu bo basar, and then you cooked meat. Lo amrina the tzorach l'shai neged kol hamayim. You don't say you need 60 keneged the whole water, because the water didn't become chanan. Rak neged hacholav shebo la'gdeira. Right? Yeah. That reminds me, I have to pick up somebody from there. So anyway, so we don't need shisha keneged the whole water because the water didn't become chanan. By the way, you remember that the behefsed meruba, but there's no chanan. We pass on that you can be made by chanan by liquids. Yeah. Right. So that's a separate point. That by liquids we don't say chanan behefsed meruba. Liquids becoming chanan. That's a separate idea. But here the Ramah is talking about boiling water. The water doesn't become chanan because we're talking about milk in that pot or meat in that pot. It's heter, it's not chanan. So all you would need is tzorach l'shai neged kol hamayim. You don't need rak neged hacholav shebo la'gdeira. So here, there's two separate cases. Here he's just telling us the water does not become chanan, and eventually if you did cook meat within 24 hours, you only need to figure out how much milk there was, not how much water now there is that was cooked in the pot. Don't consider the water all milk. Just if you know how much milk there was in that pot, just figure out against the milk. But there is the other halacha of cooking water between milk and meat. Do we start the 24 hours from the water, or do we start the 24 hours from the milk? That's a machlokes. When do you start counting the 24 hours again?
What are we saying? Now?
Not the Ramah's case, but
no, your case.
In my case?
Yeah, the one.
You have
a pot you cook meat.
Right.
Now what happens?
Within a few hours later, I cooked water.
Water.
Water. Right. Do I start the 24 hours from the water or from the original time of meat? Because I need 24 hours. Now, if I had, remember the Ramah's heter and the Mechaber said it pretty much. If you had at least one night in between water and meat, or the water and the next thing, the milk, then you have really two heterim, the tziruf of two heterim. One heter is, according to those like shitas that hold linas laila is enough to be poigem. We hold you need a meis leis lechatchila. But when you have the tziruf of linas laila, all it was is one night in between the water, right? Plus, you have the smak, the shita that holds the water doesn't make any difference whatsoever in refreshing or re-enlivening the isser, right? Then you could have a tziruf of these two heterim. You could use the heter also of linas laila.
Now I remember, I think there was loicus.
Yeah.
You need the lina between the water and the, or if it also will work if the water was already cooked in a pot before linas laila after the meat was cooked, and now the linas laila is between the water and the following milk.
Yes. There was, of course, there was a machlokes. There was a different shit. There was various shitas on that. Yeah. So, regardless, I mean, you're right. There are shitas like this. There are shitas like this. But what we do have is the advantage that because basar and cholav are both heterim, right? It's not iser. You also have something called not barnat. Not barnat coming into the water. Whereas if it would be a real iser, a pot that's a goyish pot that somebody cooked by mistake, right? That you wouldn't rely, even if you don't hold chanan b'shar yisroel, that the water is becoming chanan and going back into the pot, like some would claim. even if you don't hold like that there's no chanan b'shar yisurim, because otherwise, if there is chanan b'shar yisurim, you have chanan in the water becomes chanan. And now I have to count 24 hours from the water by yisurim. Here you have heter, so you don't have that problem. But you do have a problem, even if you don't hold chanan b'shar yisurim, nat bar nat is not said by yisurim. It's only said by heterim.
Yep.
So even if you had a nat bar nat in an isur situation, it wouldn't help you. We're machmer because there's always a little bit left over, and that's good enough to make it asa.
But it's not even a parallel case.
Right.
Not par not with this part that with respect to heter prevents the heter from from affecting something else such that the combination will become an isser.
Right.
But not bar not, no one ever said not bar not has the strength, the power to neutralize, to be mevatel an isser that's already there.
Right.
What does that have to do with?
No, in other words, it would apply only in a heter.
You have a heter.
Sure.
Now the heter has to have the power to affect something else to become an isser.
Yes.
Milk and meat.
Sure.
So the nat bar nat tells you it's not strong enough to be able to accomplish this subsequent ushering.
Right. So even if it goes back into
But
the
once
past,
it was already an isser, so why would the nat bar nat do anything with it? It's already an isser. It doesn't have to become an isser.
yeah, but you would think that if it came out, it was diluted. So we say it's not.
Yeah, but
By heter, we do say that it's a little bit being a little
But
bit.
this dilution only works with respect to converting into an isser, from transforming something else into an isser.
Yeah,
Well, why would this
not yet. It's still a heter.
effective
In a heter, it's still a heter. It just goes back into the pot, whatever came out. And by now, it's even more diluted because it's a nat by nat.
As long as it's a heter.
Yeah, it's a heter, exactly. With by Isur, we say there's always a little bit left over, and that's sufficient for it to go back and still be considered an Isur. All right. Anyway, we're up to Sif Zayin with Hashem. We'll hopefully finish the Siman next week, hopefully. And with Hashem, have a few more Simanim after that.